had to double check the date, but it is Monday, September 18th. Good morning from the CNET NY Studios. It's time for the 359 podcast. We're somehow at episode 285. And in the house, we got Roger Cheng and special guest Dan, the Man Ackerman.
Hello.
That was lame.
Ackerman?
I'm sorry. I was
you
really
tried
lame.
hard
I'm tired,
there.
man. I'm tired.
I've heard
a
it
long
all
weekend.
over my 43 years. Anything that could possibly rhyme.
Well, it's been a long couple of days.
I
More
owe you
than a
better
couple
than
days.
that, Dan.
Long couple of weeks, really. So we're going to be talking about, yeah, you guessed it, more iPhone stuff. It doesn't end. It won't end. We're going to be talking about Apple pretty much all week. But we're going to talk with Dan a bit about his 5 stages of acceptance. How he convinced himself to buy the $1,000 iPhone 10. Not even the $1,000 one, right? The $1,150 bucks.
You probably got to go with,
Yeah.
with the higher end.
So we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about what you'll have to give up to buy an iPhone 10. And then a little plug for our road trip piece. And lastly, we'll talk about CNET Book Club, which is Dan's new podcast, just launched a few weeks ago. We'll get more details on that. As always, if you have any questions, leave them in the comment section. Brian will pick out the best, and we will get to them in 3 minutes and 59 seconds.
From 3, 2...
Welcome to the 359. I'm Roger Cheng, and with me is special guest and PC guru Dan Ackerman.
Hello.
Dan, thanks for joining us.
Always a pleasure.
So we're several days removed from the iPhone launch, and yes, we're still talking about it. And Dan, you actually had a nice piece, the 5 stages of acceptance for an iPhone 10. Tell me how you convinced yourself to buy not even a $1,000 phone, but an $1,150 iPhone 10.
Yeah, you got to go for the bigger one. I think that's what most people will do. I looked at those Kubler-Ross 5 stages of grief.
Yes.
And we've done this for a couple of things in the past, but they go through like denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and then finally acceptance. And I think that everyone who goes, oh, I'm definitely not getting that iPhone 10, whereas most people seem to be calling it the iPhone X.
Right.
You're going to work through this whole process and go from definitely no to, well, what if maybe, and then you go, all right, take my money.
It's kind of funny because I was at the event and I was holding the phone and using it, and I was like, I'm definitely gonna buy this phone. But as I waited longer, as I kind of thought it through this weekend, I'm actually talking myself out of it. I'm like, I have a 7 Plus. Do I really need an iPhone 10? That's kind of an indulgence. My wife definitely is getting a new phone. So then we'd be out like $2,200.
And you have 6 weeks to go back through that cycle many times.
Fortunately, we have a lot of time to think about it. Our colleague Maggie Reardon, by the way, calculated what you need to give up to buy an iPhone 10. That would be giving up a daily latte at Starbucks for 274 days, unscribing, not forgoing with HBO Now for the next 6 years, giving up her family's gym membership at a fancy sports club for 4 months, foregoing music lessons for kids for the next 8 months. So there are some practical things there. You don't really need music lessons, right?
And everybody pays it off over whatever 2 years
Yes,
or
there are
30
the monthly
months.
installment plans,
anyway.
for sure. All right. So next up, I want to give a quick plug out to our road trip package. Our latest story is out. It's a fascinating look at Rwanda. Our colleagues Derek Herr and Rich Nieva went out there to kind of look at how they really embraced tech, really embraced a lot of Silicon Valley companies in revitalizing their healthcare system and revitalizing their economy, really like using drones to deliver medicine across long distances. Really, really fascinating stuff. You guys should check it out. All right, and then lastly, I wanted to talk about a new podcast that we're launching, that Dan, you're launching, CNET Book Club. It was out a few weeks ago, right?
That was our inaugural episode.
Yes.
I was talking to our colleague Scott Stein, who you know, and we talked about a lot of the same books that we read and other people here read. And we go, just joking on Twitter, we should have a book club. And then we said, let's make it happen. So the CNET Book Club talks about books that I think are of interest to CNET readers. Mm-hmm. That could be science fiction, that could be speculative fiction, that could be books about business and technology, nonfiction books.
Right.
As an author myself of a book that kind of falls into that category,
Yep.
I think there's a lot of people out there who would be interested in that. Our inaugural episode had Jeff Vandermeer, who is the author of the Southern Reach trilogy and the new book Born. And these are kind of very forward-looking technology and biology-heavy science fiction that really have been critically lauded. Very sort of David Cronenberg, David Lynch-esque kind of weird speculative fiction. And he called in. We talked about the book. Then the author called in, and we talked to him about all the questions we had. So it was a lot of fun.
Nice. So is this going to be a regular thing? Are you going to be doing it monthly, quarterly?
We're going to try to do one every month or so.
Okay.
We have a bunch of cool authors, I think, lined up for the fall and into the winter that you're going to enjoy.
Nice. All right. For these stories and more, check us out on CNET. I'm Roger Cheng.
I'm Dan Ackerman.
Thanks for listening.
Dan, you want to?
It always feels so short.
I know. At 4 minutes goes really,
My
really
God.
fast.
Yep.
But that's why we hang out afterwards.
Yes.
That's why
So-
we've got the nice Q&A session for everyone.
So while I farm out some questions out of there, Dan, why don't you remind the people what's that book that you made?
Oh, well, that is, of course, the Tetris Effect, my nonfiction story about how Tetris was the most important technology ever stolen from the Soviet Union during the Cold War by Western companies, and how the Russians put together an economic hit squad to
So
get the money back.
it's a nonfiction book, right?
It's nonfiction, and I'd like to think it's the kind of book we would talk about on the book club if it was not already out. Video games, business backstabbing, Gorbachev.
So I gotta ask, are you going to be doing something for Ready Player One when that comes out?
That would be a lot of fun. That's a movie that's coming out next year, the movie version of it.
Right. What
yeah.
is it next year? I thought it was coming out this.
It's like
it is next year.
February
It's early
or
next year.
March.
You're right.
Ernest Cline, author of that, of course, was
Yep.
kind enough to blurb my book. So he's a good
you
dude.
should definitely have him on. Like I read the book.
That would totally be a fun one.
I read the book. It was sort of a good look in VR, and the trailer for the actual film.
The
it looks
Spielberg
amazing.
film, yeah.
Yeah, it looks amazing because there's just so many references to favorite 80s.
Oh yeah,
90s
and I
movies.
totally played some of those Dungeons of Daggerath. That was my favorite
Really?
reference there. I
Wow.
totally played that on my Tandy TRS-80 color computer.
Wow, that is
Might have been on a
showing
cassette
some
drive.
Serious geek cred right there.
That was little nerdy mini Dan right there.
Brian, we have any questions?
We do. We got a few shout-outs. Danny Green,
Danny,
Matthew Datcher, Great Mr. Lizard.
Datch.
And our good old buddy Michael Brown, who says, I'm sacrificing Netflix at $14.99 a month and
Wow.
and HBO.
Oh my gosh, that's
is a
serious
dedicated
sacrifice.
trooper.
Yeah.
Dedication to a phone here. Now Roger said he has a 7 Plus,
Yeah.
and he's thinking of replacing it. A phone that's less than a year old. That's insane.
That is insane. I mean,
I at
He
least
is
have
insane.
and I totally admit that is a total indulgence. I have few indulgences at this point. I don't even drink anymore. I mean, it's sad. But one thing I do is I upgrade to the latest and greatest phone. I'm looking for a Pixel 2 as well. So I mean, that's really my only real luxury item that I
Is the new phone every year?
It's my guilty pleasure.
All right, I'm 3 years out.
But given the price of this phone, like I'm having second thoughts about that.
It's what's the difference? It's $30 versus $35 versus $45 a month for a regular phone. If you do the 24 or 30
Yeah,
month, it's
no,
not that.
it's a matter for me. It's like, do I just hold off and not upgrade for
Sure.
another year, or
Which I did because I have a 6 Plus, so 3 years old at this point. Now I feel like I'm ready.
But were you looking to upgrade like last year, and you like saw the headlines about
Yep.
the big changes coming the year after?
I was just I was so unimpressed. It was just another thing. I can't. Okay, here's my thing. I can't get a new phone that looks almost exactly the same as my old phone. I need some step forward in terms of
yeah.
design.
so superficial.
So I have the
Dan.
6 and 6S, and then 7. The 7
Yeah,
looks
I know.
the same.
That's why I think
I'm
that
not
for a lot
banking
of
on a phone that
people-
looks
a
the
lot of
same.
people, especially who are sort of in the technorati or into tech, like the what
Technorati?
technorati.
That's
that
the new
a
William
thing?
Gibson novel, Technorati.
Yeah, that's the. Why did I just say that word? I don't know. It just came out of my mouth.
Like Illuminati for tech?
yes.
Seriously?
Yeah.
That's a thing?
Oh yeah,
it's
yeah,
not.
that totally is a thing.
How did I miss that boat? That's
was gonna say
awesome.
the
Or
tech
the
elite.
Digerati.
I was
Oh
gonna
my
say the
God.
tech elite, like Dan.
Tech leets.
Not us. Tech leets. Yeah, an iPhone 8's a non-starter, right? Because it's the exact same
It
phone with
looks
a
the
glass
same.
back.
If I'm only going to treat myself to a new phone once every 3 years, I'd like a more upgraded,
I mean, that's,
more updated
every 3
look.
years is a very, very pragmatic way of going about your iPhone or your phone upgrade cycles, for sure.
And it's important, especially even design-wise, because we use these things more than our laptops, really.
Right.
I saw a great, it was a graph from, it might have been from Digiday, about page views from mobile versus desktop
Yeah.
versus,
Yeah, yeah.
and it was, steady decline, slight but steady decline or steady on desktop and other
Yeah.
platforms, mobile just straight up since like 2012. And again, that difference,
Now,
side by side.
does it
but
bother you though that they're giving up the home button and you'll have to use Face ID,
I don't
facial
know.
recognition?
I
to,
don't seem to care.
okay, you just
I've
care
been a
that's different
facial
enough.
recognition pioneer. I hooked it up on my Xbox One and PlayStation 4
With the
way
Kinect,
back
you
when
mean?
those consoles first came out, which must have
Yeah.
been 4+ years ago now, maybe 5 even.
Did they work that well though?
We did a test in the lab. We filmed it. There's a video of it floating around somewhere where we tried the Kinect camera on the Xbox One and the PlayStation Move camera on the PS4,
Yeah,
facial
yeah.
recognition login. So I did each one, well-lit area in our PC testing lab, and then I did glasses on, glasses off. I did hat on, hat off, and then for the finale, I shaved my little mini stubbly beard. I forget exactly which one did which, but the glasses off fooled one of them, as in it wouldn't recognize me and log me in.
Right.
The hat on fooled the other one, but then they both handled the facial hair no problem. Like I would stand in front of
the promise with Face ID is with all those factors, it shouldn't be fooled. Like it should be able to recognize you regardless of beard, hat, glasses, anything.
I'm going to get a couple cameras. I'm going to do a 3D scan of Scott's head. I'm going to get a 3D printer. I'm going to, print like a waxy head, maybe even head like 6-inch scale or something.
A tiny
head, and I want to see if that will unlock.
That's horrifying. All right.
Just the idea of a tiny Scott.
Hackers will need to carry a suitcase of tiny wax heads with them. Okay, I got my suitcase.
And it's
Which
3D.
head do I need?
It would be 3D.
And one more reminder: how many years ago was that you were testing the facial recognition?
I mean,
Would that be
that's
5,
when
6?
that's when the Xbox One and PS4 launched within a couple months of each other, whatever years that
So it
was.
like
Definitely 4 or 5
4
years
years
ago.
ago.
Closer to 5,
that's
I think,
why
at
But I
this
use
point.
Windows Hello now
And
on
that
a
works
couple
well?
of laptops. It does until I just found a flaw, at least in the one Alienware that I'm using it on. I just sit down, I look at it, goes, "Hello, Dan Ackerman," and logs me in no problem.
Yeah.
I was at home, logging into a Windows Hello system, and I had a baseball cap on. Which is not my usual look, but it's the weekend Brooklyn guy, baseball cap. Here we go. Who did not? It's like, we don't know who you are.
Maybe it was just because you're not a baseball hat
And then
guy.
I took the hat off. It was like, "Hello, Dan." I put the hat on.
No, maybe it was
Where'd he go?
Emergency lockdown
Maybe
mode.
it
Delete
was-
hard drive now.
It's like you're playing peekaboo with your child.
Yes, I'm playing peekaboo with Windows Hello.
No, maybe it was judging you though because it knows you're not a hat guy. It's like, no, Dan, you shouldn't be wearing a hat.
This is a
We're
pretty
not
good-looking
logging
hat.
you
I'm gonna
in,
have to
I'm
start.
sorry.
I'm
We
gonna
know
have to
it's
start bringing
you.
the hat into the
We
workday.
just don't accept it. So
It's throwing subtle fashion shade at you while it's
yeah,
at.
exactly.
All right, so variety channels with you, Dan. He says, I'm all about the design. While we're talking about facial recognition, AI Pimp, shout out to AI Pimp, too, for chatting us up in the chat. For those new about the 359, it's 3 minutes and 59 seconds of worthwhile content and then 20 minutes of crap. So thanks,
This is the
AI
crap.
Pimp.
You're in the crap right
This
now.
is the crap now.
Yeah.
Run. AI Pimp, sunglasses won't work with iPhone X, I guess. It can't see your eyes or not. Maybe there's a setting for that. Maybe you can anticipate it.
Actually, I'm not. That's not entirely true. I think it's supposed to work for sunglasses, even polarized sunglasses. But there are a number of glasses that filter out infrared, and that's where the issue is. So it uses infrared dots. So actually, sunglasses are fine. Even mirrored sunglasses are fine.
I mean, but if you're super security conscious, none of these biometric systems are really what you want to use if you're concerned about people searching your phone. If you're a reporter or you're crossing a border or engaged in something else where you do not want law enforcement or border control to access your phone, it doesn't matter what biometric system you use. They're just going to take your thumb and put it on the phone.
Well, yeah, that's what I'm assuming.
Whether
that
the thumb is attached to your body or not.
Yes.
Well, I'm assuming when this phone comes out, they'll have some sort of panic mode where you.
Oh, well, that's in iOS 11.
Right.
If you hit the power button five
Four
times,
times, five times?
quickly,
Okay,
it'll
yeah.
do force a passcode.
But how does that work with your iPhone 10 when there's no power button? Oh, the side
Little
power
button,
button.
yeah,
The
side power button,
Oh,
side button.
Okay.
Sleep button, whatever they call it.
Let's talk a little more about sacrifices.
Yes.
PDMLNT.
Who's giving up what?
He says, I'm sacrificing the Touch ID.
Oh, there you go.
And while we're at Armando G, sacrificing a home button, a fingerprint scanner, headphone
Headphone
jack,
jack. Yeah, we
wireless
already
charging
sacrificed
cables.
the headphone jack.
Ouch.
Granted,
whatever.
we had already given up the headphone jack a year ago, so.
Oh, I'm excited about wireless charging, frankly.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's cool.
I
Fingers
feel like,
crossed for that as a guy who has to deal with cables all the
yeah,
freaking
I
time.
feel like I'm clearly buying several pads. Starbucks says they're retrofitting their
Yes.
cables that already have charging pads.
Poor
It's not that I
folks
would be
at
caught dead in a
was it
Starbucks.
the folks at PowerMat making those PMA chargers. It's like another wireless charging standard.
Yeah, there's two standards.
And basically now they're just completely left out of the cold because it's sort of like
They got to get those key chargers out there.
Yep.
All right, let's get some more questions in before we run out of time here. Bobby Hayes, why did Apple not talk about Siri or anything AI with what's coming in the future?
Oh, and why didn't they talk more about AR, which everybody leading
Yeah.
up to this event was saying this was going to be the big coming out party for mixed reality, augmented reality.
I found that really curious too. The AR part in particular was surprising to me. I don't think they talked about Siri because they're gonna have their HomePod launch later this year. Like, remember, it comes out, November, I think?
Yeah.
And I don't forget when it comes out exactly, but when they come out with HomePod, I think that's when they're going to have a really big discussion about Siri and all the new things that Siri can do. But as for AR, I found it a little surprising. They showed off, like,
There's way more for the iPhone 8.
one demo.
Yeah, it's like, they didn't have any good
Yeah.
demos.
you
Someone
know what?
speculated that they had a lot of demos lined up, and they just were not
Ready.
killer enough.
Oh, yeah. I
to
mean,
put
look,
on
the
stage.
Machines demo was pretty awesome. I tried it out. It was pretty cool. There was a Thomas the Train one that was kind of awesome. You know, tabletop
What about the
train.
tape measure? That's all anyone cares about is the tape measure.
Yeah, there was no IKEA one. I was
But,
hoping
you
to see
just
an
hold it
IKEA
up,
one with a
and you
tape
can measure the wall just by going tape
like
measure
Google
here to
Tango.
there.
Yeah.
That's all I want. I want the tape measure.
Just that.
I'm happy.
If it could be a
I'd buy an
stud
iPhone 10 just
finder
for that.
and a leveler, that would be kind of cool too.
Corkscrew.
Corkscrew, toaster,
Bottle
waffle
opener.
maker, whatever.
Wait, what do you need a AR leveler for?
I don't know. Just because.
to
It's
have
like
it.
a standard level on your phone as is works
yeah, I
just
never.
fine.
I feel like
But
I
if you
never,
call it AR leveler, more people will download
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, there it is. Okay, marketing at its best. Let's get existential before we wrap it up. Michael
Yeah.
Brown, why is the majority of people preferring iOS over Android? Let's revisit the ultimate question.
Oh, I mean, I don't know if it's a majority. I think a majority of people prefer Android at this point. if you look
I
at the
think
market
more people
share.
may use it because there are more phones that have
Yes,
it. I don't know
yeah,
if you would say they would prefer it.
Well, maybe because they can afford it.
Yes.
It's probably the better answer there. It comes down to preference at this point.
I go back and forth every couple of generations.
Yeah, I
I've
have-
used Note phones for a while. I've used iPhones. Over the
I'm-
last,
At this point, debating between a Pixel 2 and,
Mm-hmm.
and a Note 8 for my Android phone, and I like to try to keep 1 foot in each side to see what everyone's doing. But they're different enough. My arguments for a long time is I always get asked whether or not this phone is going to be the one that takes people away from iPhone, or if the iPhone 10 is enough
Yeah.
to win over people. People aren't switching anymore.
No.
They're kind of like locked in their
Locked
camp.
in, yes.
Yeah. So I don't know. I don't have a great question. I think they're both great OSs. They're just different enough that it's a pain in the butt to switch.
Apple, I mean, iOS is much more streamlined in terms of things working together within the OS.
Yes.
And,
yeah.
ease of access to things.
You're not
and
able
just-
to. You're not able to do as much. But if
No.
all you care about is for stuff to work, I feel like it's a better operating system for you.
The camera experience has always been better and
Right.
easier and more streamlined.
Yeah,
That's it.
I'm going to agree with that.
They
Yeah.
prioritize
All right.
they prioritize a handful of things that most people really want to do.
I've
Right.
jumped the fence and I found my comfort zone on both.
Yeah.
I'm
There you go.
Benedict Arnold,
There-
trader of
There's no traders here,
smartphones.
man. No traders.
All right, that's about enough time for today. Roger, why don't you bring us home?
All right. If you liked anything you saw or heard here, check us out on CNET. Our podcast is also available on iTunes, TuneIn, Stitcher, SoundCloud, FeedBurner, and Google Play Music. See you all tomorrow. for
Bye-bye.
More Apple.
Thanks, Dan.
More Apple.
Bye,
Thank you, Dan.
guys. My pleasure.